Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. Well, here we are. The White House is now openly defying Congress's power to investigate the president for high crimes and misdemeanors. Just tonight, White House counsel sent an unhinged 8-page letter to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and the Democratic House chairs investigating Trump. It accuses them of violating the Constitution and the rule of law by depriving Trump of his rights during a trial, even though, to be clear, an impeachment trial is not what's happening. It wouldn't take place until much later in the Senate. And that's not how any of this works. The letter asserts, quote, President Trump cannot permit his administration to participate in this partisan inquiry under these circumstances. Of course, participation isn't really optional. The Constitution's pretty plain on this. The House of Representatives shall have the sole power of impeachment. But this is the only latest instance of the president's ever more grandiose assertions that he is fundamentally above the law. Earlier today, in a last-minute reversal, the State Department ordered a key witness, a Trump appointee, in the growing Ukraine scandal not to appear before Congress. And there's good reason to believe that witness is at the center of the entire scandal. There's already clear evidence of President Trump corruptly coercing an occupied country to manufacture dirt on his political opponent. So congressional investigators don't really need anything else, but there is good reason to believe the Trump White House is still hiding a lot. And the key to what they're hiding is the man that they would not let testify today. His name is Gordon Sondland, of the European Union, and he has a close relationship with President Trump. In 2017, he gave $1 million to Trump's inauguration committee anonymously through 4 LLCs. And so it appears he got his job as a kind of thank you note. Now, Sondland boasted in an interview earlier this year that he was running U.S. foreign policy in Ukraine, even though there is no reason whatsoever for him to be running point on Ukraine.
President Trump has not only honored me with the job of being the U.S. ambassador to the EU, but he's also given me other special assignments, including Ukraine, as I mentioned previously. We have what are called the Three Amigos, and the Three Amigos are Secretary Perry, again, Ambassador Volker, and myself. And we've been tasked with sort of overseeing the Ukraine-U.S. relationship.
Okay, again, he's the ambassador to the EU. Ukraine is not in the EU. NBC News reports, quote, Sondland is part of a small cadre of ambassadors who enjoy direct and frequent access to Trump. U.S. officials and others with knowledge of the relationship say. The two speak frequently by phone, have spoken extensively about Ukraine in the past. So Sondland, friend of the president, ends up running point on Ukraine. After, we should note, they removed the career ambassador who had the job of ambassador to Ukraine, Marie Yovanovitch. Apparently, she was removed because she was an obstacle to the coercion play that Rudy Giuliani and the president were cooking up. And the Washington reports that when others in the Trump administration tried to block Sondland's naked power grab, quote, he rebuffed their demands to know who had granted him such authority with 2 words, the president. Remember the chain of events of how intimately involved this guy, Gordon Sondland, is. He was the one texting with career Foreign Service officer Bill Taylor in those texts that were released last week. Remember, Taylor said to Gordon Sondland, quote, I think it's crazy to withhold security assistance for help with the political campaign. And what we know is that Gordon Sondland waited 5 hours to respond. Multiple news outlets are now reporting during that period of time he talked to Trump, presumably to come up with a cover story before he responded in writing to the career Foreign Service guy calling him out for quid pro quo. And here's how Gordon Sondland responds 5 hours later with a hilarious lawyered up text, quote, the president has been crystal clear, no quid pro quos of any kind. He ends with this, quote, I suggest we stop the back and forth by text. What we also know is that Sondland had already described what was happening to Republican Senator Ron Johnson as a quid pro quo. Gordon Sondland knew what was happening. He knew what he was tasked with doing. He was the president's guy implementing the president's policy of corruptly coercing a foreign power. And that policy in Ukraine was to dig up dirt on the president's political enemies. And Sondland worked with the president to come up with the cover story. Remember that lawyered up text, quote, the president has been crystal clear, no quid pro quos of any kind. And he sent that to Career Foreign Service for posterity, knowing full well that some investigator some way was going to read it. Now, just today, the president cited that very same text that Sondland presumably had cooked up with the president as an alibi for public consumption. Here's the president's tweet, quote, "Importantly, Ambassador Sondland's tweet, which few reports stated, 'I believe you were incorrect about President Trump's intentions. The president has been crystal clear, no quid pro quos of any kind. That says it all.'" First of all, it was not a tweet. It was a text message. But here's the other thing about Gordon Sondland. Gordon Sondland was planning to cooperate. Gordon Sondland flew in from Brussels. Gordon Sondland turned over text messages from his personal device, which I should note included texts using the encrypted messaging app WhatsApp. So God knows what's in there. But he turned all those over to the State Department, and now they are holding them in defiance of a congressional subpoena. They're willing to risk looking like they are engaged in an active cover-up just to not let this guy tell what he knows under oath. And based on that, you, dear viewer, can draw your own conclusions about what it is he does know. It's worth noting there are already several smoking guns that have been produced. We have the whistleblower complaint, which the White House released. We have the notes from Trump's call with the president of Ukraine, which the White House chose to release. The call where Trump responded to the Ukrainian president saying he wants to buy American weapons by saying, quote, "I would like you to do us a favor, though." And that was after Trump had just complained about the relationship between the countries, saying, quote, "The United States has been very, very good to Ukraine. I would not say that it's reciprocal necessarily." Every day brings us new reporting about the scope and also, crucially, about how freaked out people at the White House were. The people who were close to the call and close to the policy. Fox News, yes, that Fox News, first reported that the whistleblower who tipped off Congress to the scandal wrote a different memo the day after Trump's call with the Ukrainian president. According to that memo, a White House official had heard the entirety of the phone call described it as, and I'm quoting here, "crazy, frightening, and completely lacking in substance related to national security." New York Times added that reporting, writing that according to the memo, the White House official was visibly shaken by what had transpired. In the official's view, the president had clearly committed a criminal act by urging a foreign power to investigate a U.S. person for the purposes of advancing his own re-election bid in 2020. A criminal act. That's a White House official. People in the White House saw that it wasn't a perfect phone call. In fact, it was so far from perfect that a slew of people who had heard it were worried immediately the law had been broken. Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.